Hi guys! On this video series, I will be sharing how I created this jacket, starting with my flat template, then adding fabric and shading to create what's called a float, and then every step I did to get to a more realistic and 3D looking garment. Now that we've finished the buttonholes, let's add a new layer for the button. Here I used my denim button number 7 from one of my sets and applied the stamp in color black to the new layer. Next, I created a layer under it, and using a basic paintbrush, I created a background for it so that I can add color to it. Then I duplicated the backing layer and switched them both to white. The white background allows for the stamp to look like a nickel button already, so I only had to paint the center for the nickel and brass combo look I was going for. Next, I duplicated the backing layer and switched it to a tonal blue to create a drop shadow. Once again, you can do this by going to the magic wand and selecting Gaussian blur. Now it's time to group these layers together and place buttons on the sketch. For these last two buttons, I will be using the advanced mesh wrap tool I showed you earlier on the buttonholes, and the distort tool as well. The goal here is to make the buttons look like they are following the fabric they are attached to. It's a bit of a trial and error, so play around with these two settings until you are happy. And don't worry, we will add additional shading later, which will help make them look even better. This part is pretty self-explanatory, so I will let you follow along the visuals. Now let's merge all these buttons together into one layer. You can do this by tapping on a layer and selecting merge, or by using the pinch hand command using your fingers. Now that we have all the additional design elements in place, let's grab the shading brush we made earlier and add more dark blue shadows. We'll be doing this on the same shading layers we created earlier, by layering up on the borders we already did and adding new shadows to the seams, as well as fold lines. It's time to get creative. This part is 1 minute long, but it actually took me 30 minutes. It's just like meditation. What I love so much about Procreate is that when I went to fashion school, we had to do this with pencils and markers, so if we messed up, the whole sketch was ruined. Now I can relax and enjoy the process fully. Notice that I went darker under the collar to create a stronger shadow, and did the same around the armhole and armpits. As a rule of thumb, go darker on folds, or anything that overlaps. Next, let's add a stone wash effect. This brush is included on my denim sets as well. However, I also have a tutorial on how to create them and will add the link below. Because the fading goes mostly on the center of each part of the garment, we can do it all on one separate new layer. Just make sure it's placed under the stitching and buttons layers. Now, let's just have some fun with it. As you do this, remember what I had mentioned earlier about gravity. Keep in mind tension points and seams and where gravity might be pulling the fabric from. Also, under the bust, The armpits and the elbows are usually places where the most folds and wrinkles are. So if you want a more realistic effect, add more highs and lows there, and you'll get great results. The next step is to grab the brush we created earlier, but this time we will use it as a highlighter, simply by choosing white. I am adding a new layer for the areas that go in the center, and for anything along an edge, I go back to the clipping mask layers. This is a trial and error process, so play with the size and the opacity as you go. Once again, since this is mostly a visual process and didn't use any special tools or commands, I will speed up the video again for you to follow along. I also had neglected the waist pockets, so I added some more shadows using the same brush. I will see you on the next video and final video for this series, where I add rips, holes, 3D whiskers, and folds, and the last touch for the shadowing. Thank you for letting me be a part of your fashion design journey, and please don't forget to like and subscribe, as it helps the channel grow.